if you do a really nice woven artwork into a fabric, hopefully that would hang in the wardrobe much longer. Maybe it would stay there forever, hopefully, if the design, the functionality and the material is right.
So since 2019, which is when we started our responsibility strategy, we've been taking two different tracks on responsible materials. So one is to find direct replacements for conventional alternatives. So that would be using organic cotton or recycled cotton instead of conventional, recycled polyesters, recycled rubber, etc. And for that category, we have in our latest collection, 92% of our materials are classed under like that pocket of responsible. And then what we also started to notice is that there was a lot of innovation happening out there in the market and a lot of startups and innovations, but they didn't quite fall under that criteria where they could be direct replacements for fabrics as we know them. So that's why we created the Fabrics of the Future initiative, which is basically to scan the market and really look into these innovations and startups and try and work with them in a way. And what we're essentially trying to do is run them to like a separate track to the normal product development process, because they need to be treated very differently. And that's kind of how this Fabrics of the Future initiative started.
In the beginning, there wasn't so many options, but slowly the fabric mills are coming with a new technical solutions, and they actually can do colors suddenly and a lot of things, recycled stuff. So at the moment, when we have the fabric mills dropping by to show their samples, we're like, okay, skip all the 3 boxes with normal fabrics. Let's only see the 100 sustainable fabrics. So we don't give ourselves that option to start choosing from one of, you could say, the bad ones.
We very much focus on 3 kind of main ideas when we choose a material, and I think aesthetic is obviously a very important point, but also comfort and longevity. We are also starting since a couple of seasons to look into monofibers. So we're changing a lot of products into being 100%. And that's very important for us too, for many different reasons. Quality is one, but also circularity and once again, transparency. It's easier to track a fiber that is a single fiber than having 5 different fibers to track. And the newness for us, and it's actually new this season, and we're really, really proud of it, it's to work with undyed fibers. And we do have a couple of programs in this fall-winter collection that are undyed. And that's something that we definitely want to continue on. It feels really relevant for us and for our DNA. And it's also clearly a way to reduce energy, water, and chemical use.
Sourcing innovative and responsible material is for us an ongoing process. It's something that we always keep our eye for if there is a solution that kind of matched the level that we're looking for, or even are better, or if the new technologies and new ways you can like recycle materials or fibers, we're always aware of that. So it's something that we always look on or are aware of, but something that we definitely could have more of as well in the collection.
We created a Ganni fabric score, which is essentially like a bad, better, best criteria for us, and that's based on 2 things. One is the Higg Index. They have a material sustainability index which looks at like life cycle assessments for all different materials. And then we've also paired that with our Ganni carbon footprint. So it's actually the fabric score we've created is very specific to Ganni. And a lot of the choices that we make on materials are basically with the lowest carbon impact in mind.
what I think is very important, or what I find important in our company, is definitely how we can trace and how we can recycle the fibers that we use. So in the end, that we can try and close the cycle a bit. I think that will be like kind of the main goal. Of course, it's a long travel. So having like clean materials or using materials or compositions that are recyclable, I think is quite interesting for us.
The main collections we can nearly do like in between 80, I think the last one was 93% what we would call sustainable, which is kind of either recycled materials, polyester, cotton, or it's organic products, or it's linen, which is kind of more not so harmful to the nature. And even the bottoms we try to do out of nuts. It's a long journey and we are not really there. We're trying to do a lot of stuff, but it would continue. There's always new problems showing up towards the materials, like maybe organic is good, but maybe there's other problems with the organic products. Also, we've been looking into our, you could say, our dead stock, leftovers. Sometimes we have 3 meters, 30 meters of a fabric. And at the moment we are working together with a Danish company called Irma. And we are doing a lot of tote bags, a bag for them, which is kind of a dead stock upcycle. So it's like fabrics that's been produced in France or Italy, like very, you could say, extreme artwork that we try to actually give a new life.
We are also looking into existing fibers that we have been using for many, many years, and that we consider not being good enough, but they are standing for a big part of our sales today. So I can name viscose as one of them. We're looking into alternatives and see how we can replace what we get from viscose, which is fluidity and a lot of fancy, beautiful fabrics we can get with viscose, but we're trying to, have as a goal to replace it within the coming couple of years. Also, when it comes to certifications, we have gotten responsible wool and responsible mohair certifications in 2021. And that has been a long process that we have been undergoing with the supplier. We've kind of been in the same boat to be able to have the accreditation, because it is an audit process that certifies the whole value chain. So we've done that together with the supplier, with the main knitwear supplier that we have.
We handle our production in a way that's called CMT, where we kind of individually source like every kind of component within the garment. So it's from the button to the thread to the fabric to the lining. Everything is like we chose, or I see. So I know each supplier on everything on a garment. So I selected that of a purpose.
It's extremely important for the Fabrics of the Future initiative that we actually partner and create partnerships with the solution providers, but also pairing those solution providers with our existing garment suppliers, because they're typically new fabrics. The existing suppliers we have also need to figure out how to work with them too. And so that's why we treat Fabrics of the Future very separately, and we have a dedicated team that looks at the Fabrics of the Future project, and it really is a collaborative effort. We engage with the suppliers in a number of ways. When it comes to fabrics, obviously we have a lot of influence there in terms of the fabrics that we're using, and with Ganni prioritising lower environmental impact materials, that's a huge start, because we need to then find suppliers that can match that and also want to work with those sort of materials. One of the biggest focuses that we have coming up is we've set a new carbon target, which is an extremely ambitious 50% absolute reduction by 2027. And it's really fair to say that Ganni's not going to be able to achieve this without its suppliers. And so starting from this year, we're engaging with our suppliers on like a carbon insetting pilot project. So essentially financially investing in the supplier and putting hopefully solar panels at the factory facilities and helping them essentially on the transition to green energy. And so there's a lot of demands typically brands put on suppliers in order to become more environmental or socially conscious, but actually we have to work hand in hand, and we also need to financially invest in those suppliers in order to make it possible.
And then we have some goals for 2022 that are some focuses amongst other on packaging. So packaging is a very big deal for us now. We have our main supplier that uses recycled plastic, but we're also aiming to convert all our packaging into lower impact materials in 2022. And we're also looking into working with the life cycle assessment of our products. So really looking into the environmental impact of the products we make and the materials we buy, to be able to start measuring and start tracking or keep tracking the progress that we do. So all of that is projects for 2022 that we have as a very big focus.
In general, all creative or designers, people really would love to aim for sustainability 100%, but it's also what kind of choices do they have. But I think the textile companies have suddenly figured out that there is a big demand for this now. So also the option of what they're showing is becoming more and more. And in the beginning it was like a beige linen you had, that was your option. But now they actually can get a lot of things, and by science and by techniques and the machines, they actually can do a lot of things that actually can work in a sustainable perspective. So there's a little light in the tunnel of which materials to use, and hopefully the materials also after being used can have another life. So it's also keeping it a bit simple and not mixing too many different materials together.